Greetings and welcome to the very first Q&A session on this channel. People have been telling me to do one of these for ages, and well, I finally decided why not? It might be fun. So a couple of days ago I asked you guys in a community post to post questions to me. And now I'm going to answer them. Let's just get right into it, because there's a lot more questions than I expected. I can see that the post has 158 comments, and I'm assuming that most of those, or maybe all of them, are questions. I haven't looked at any of them yet, because I want all the questions to be a surprise. Right, let's just start with the very first question, asked by Frogman. Frogman asks, if you were appointed editor-in-chief and president of DC Comics, what are you gonna do with it? Besides killing off Harley and making Two-Face the main character of DC. Well, I mean, that's about it. Those are the first two steps, of course. Kill off Harley and make Two-Face the flagship character. Other than that, well, I don't really know. There's a lot that needs to be done. I guess I would focus on smaller stories instead of these constant massive events that always ends up being disappointing anyway. If we're gonna be serious now, that would be my main objective. I would try to scale down all the stories and greatly decrease the big events and just mainly focus on 2 to 5 parters. I would also, of course, give titles to lesser characters. I wouldn't just give Batman 10 titles and then almost nothing else. You know, like a Metal Man title, an Atom title, a Firestorm title. They don't have to be ongoing, but at least miniseries. And of course, I would launch an ongoing Arkham series. Next question is Mark Suraki asks, since Hugo knows he was wrong and he's gonna set Batman free, oh, this is about the patient sessions, is he gonna release the Cavalier as well? Well, it was never really confirmed that he was gonna set Batman free. He is contemplating it, that's for sure, but he would rather help Bruce move on, but that doesn't really seem to be working, so there is a very big chance he is gonna set Bruce free and just let him do whatever he wants, because in the end it doesn't really matter. And he probably will do the same for Mortimer Drake as well. Mr. Valeska, Jerome Valeska, asks, if you had to make a Batman live-action movie trilogy and had to feature 2 villains in each film, who would they be? How would your portrayal of Batman be depicted differently from the rest? Love your videos. Well, thank you, Valeska. Wow, okay, 3 movies, 2 villains each. Well, obviously Two-Face is gonna be one of them. I probably wouldn't throw in Two-Face in there right away, because I wanna build them up. I mean, if I know I'm gonna get to make 3 movies, you know, it's all, I feel safe and secure that they aren't gonna, you know, can me in the middle of it so I can't finish, you know, introduce Two-Face. So I would save him probably for the 2nd or 3rd movie and build him up as Harvey Dent before that. I mean, that's a bit of a tough question. It all really depends on what kind of story I'm going for. So you really have to answer that first before you can really pick the villains. But the villains that I would definitely want to put into a trilogy, besides Two-Face, would be Scarecrow, Black Mask, Calendar Man. I mean, we're getting the Penguin and the Riddler now in the Matt Reeves movie, so I don't feel a massive urge to use them. I don't really want to use the Joker. Big surprise. Maxie Zeus. I wouldn't make him the main villain, by the way. And Mr. Freeze, I guess. Well, there's 6 villains. Two-Face, Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, Black Mask, Maxie Zeus, and Calendar Man. I'm not really sure. That's a really tough question. It all depends on the story you're gonna go for. I did actually have an idea for a first Batman movie in a trilogy that would feature Scarecrow and Maxie Zeus as the villains. Scarecrow as the main villain and Maxie as the secondary villain. In my portrayal of Batman, well, that's really tough too. I would obviously focus more on the villains than Batman. We've gotten so many great portrayals of Batman in the movies. We've seen him explored as a character. I honestly wouldn't quite know what to do with him, and it seems like Matt Reeves is gonna do some interesting things with him too now in the Batman. focusing on Bruce Wayne's rage. I do like the idea of an unhinged Batman, but we got that in the Batfleck movies, and now we're getting it in the Matt Reeves movie. So, you know, I guess there wouldn't really be any point in doing that again. I've had one idea for one movie that would focus on Bruce Wayne being kind of addicted to being Batman, and he really leaves no time for much else. He's completely neglecting his Bruce Wayne life and Wayne Enterprises and his social life, and he's just focusing on crime fighting. He's both enjoying crime fighting more than doing Bruce Wayne stuff, and feels that Batman is really needed at all times on the streets of Gotham. And because of that, something happens within Wayne Enterprises, you know, involving some villain. And, you know, Bruce Wayne completely missed that because he wasn't focusing on his businesses. Yeah, that's one idea. Yeah, I have to admit, I don't really have that many great ideas for Batman himself, because I feel he's been done really well so many times, over and over and over, in all kinds of forms of media. I don't really feel that I have all that much new to add to the table with him. I feel like I have more to add with the villains. But I hope I answered your question satisfactory anyway, Mr. Valeska. Next question is from Experience Fanatic. Experience Fanatic asks, what are your thoughts on the villain rivalry and gang wars that occurred in Batman Arkham City? I love how a lot of the rogues are bigged up as legends by the thugs of Gotham. Well, I really like all of that too. I love the rivalry and how the thugs talk about them. You can listen in on them talking about them. I thought the gang war between the rogues in that game was a great idea. And the setting being this sort of escape from New York, but with Batman in it. And the rogues are kind of fighting in these tribal gang wars within the locked up city. That was a great idea. But, you know, it's a bit of a shame, or a big shame actually, that the game doesn't really focus on that aspect all that much. It's really just a small part of the plot of the game. I thought that was going to be the main plot of Arkham City. And that was disappointing. I love that idea, and I wanted a lot more of that. I wanted an entire game just focused on that, instead of the whole... well, there was too much focus on Hugo Strange and Ra's al Ghul in that game, and of course Batman's infection and the Joker. And really, the gang wars was really just a backdrop. It was never really the focus. I wanted way more of that. Next question by Gennaro Pacciano. He asks, if you had to create a cinematic universe focused on the characters from DC, how would it look like? Would you focus more on some heroes, villains that weren't really that well used, developed in previous transpositions? Or would you focus more on characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, etc.? Well, I think that Warner Brothers has done a really bad job at this. They did actually focus on a lot of lesser known characters. That was kind of weird. I mean, I would actually build it up with the big characters. I would do the traditional thing. I would do a Superman movie, a Wonder Woman movie, a Green Lantern movie, a Flash movie, a Batman movie. I would start it with all of that. And then, you know, have a team-up movie, Justice League, and then have some sequels, and at the same time also introduce the lesser-known characters, the smaller properties. Plastic Man, the Atom, Firestorm, the Legion of Superheroes, etc. So yeah, that's really what I would do. I would just do the traditional thing, the thing that makes sense in my opinion. I mean, obviously now it's way too late for that. DC is doing their thing and they kinda messed it up at the beginning, and now they're just doing random stuff. And I think that's for the best. I don't think they should focus on a universe any longer. Just give us random good movies like The Suicide Squad and Shazam and so on. Standalone movies. I think it's too late for a DC cinematic universe, you know, I have to say. They botched it. They botched it, and I don't really think there's any going back. Maybe in the future, in the far-off future. Next question is from Ezekiel Rayfield. If you had the ability to make a Batman TV show and free range to do anything, that would you do? What would you do? It can animate, it can be it can animated or live action, dark or cheesy, realistic or fantastical, whatever. Great grammar there, Ezekiel. But free reign for the Batman TV show, what would I do? Anything I can imagine, animated or live action, cheesy or fantastical or realistic. Well, I would pick live action because we've gotten so many cartoons, and now we're getting another one, the Cape Crusader, which by the way looks amazing. And cheesy, no, because we already had the 60s TV show, the only live action Batman show we have, if we don't count Gotham, which you can't quite count. So I would not do that, because we don't have a serious Batman live action TV show yet, so I would do that. Realistic or fantastical? No, it would be fantastical. It would be serious but fantastical, like the comic books. It would not be a Nolan-ish thing. It would feature a very bizarre looking Gotham City, and it would feature super powered characters like Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, etc. That's basically what it would just be, an adaptation, you know, of classic Batman in live action. That's really what it would be. I would probably mix it up with long arcs and smaller stories. Next question, or questions. We have 3 questions here by Danny Buckle. His first question is, if you had to take any radically altered takes on a character from an adaptation and have them replace their canonical comic counterpart, who would you choose? Well, I don't know if I really want to do that with anybody, to be honest. There are some in movies, I mean, radically altered. That's like Catwoman and Penguin from Batman Returns. I guess Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. They're radically altered. Oh, Polka Dot Man, of course. Polka Dot Man is terrible in the comics, and nothing like he is in the Suicide Squad movie, and he's of course a lot better in that movie. So yeah, that's one answer for sure. I think that's the first one I would go with. Replace comic book Polka Dot Man that used this character with the movie version. As for any others, I can't really think of any at the moment. Next question from Danny Buckle. What are your favorite Disney Pixar movie villains, if you have any? Well, I have a lot of favorite Disney villains, actually. I love Ratigan from The Great Mouse Detective, and I love the pair from Pinocchio. What are they called again? Honest John and Gideon. And I love Cruella de Vil from the classic animated movie, and Shere Khan is great. Maleficent, the evil queen from Snow White. I like a lot of them. Captain Hook from Peter Pan. Yeah, I like a lot of Disney villains. I've actually been meaning for years to make a top 10 favorite Disney villains video, but I never seem to get around to it. And Danny Buckle's final question is, if you could give any character a successful Arkhamverse Spider-Man PS4-like game, who would you pick and what villains would you use? The Flash. Without a doubt, the Flash. The biggest problem with the Flash is, of course, the super speed, but I don't... A lot of people make it out to be a problem. How do you portray his super speed? It's gonna move way too fast. Well, I mean, there are games where you can run really fast with super speed. Just one example at the top of my head is Saints Row 4. You acquire superpowers in that game, and one of them is to run at super speed. I mean, obviously it's a little bit slower than Flash would normally run, but just it doesn't really matter. Just tone it down a bit. I think you could easily portray super speed in a video game because you've seen it in many games. I mean, hell, just in Sonic, you've got sort of super speed. I don't think it's really a problem. Just, yeah, a huge open world map of Central City and maybe Keystone too. You know, have 2 cities and a big bridge between them. A really big playground for you to run around in. And you know, you have your plot and of course a lot of side missions, just random crime happening just like in the Spider-Man game. And just throw a ton of rogues in there. Basically all of them can fit in there, really. Yeah, that's what I would do. Flash game, open world Flash game, super speed, all the villains in there basically, more or less. Yeah, with a game like that you wouldn't have to worry about, you know, like in a Batman game, running over people with the Batmobile. That's not gonna happen. If you run into someone as a Flash, you know, just nothing happens. Just make it like that. It's fine. And you can't attack civilians, you know, just like in the Spider-Man game. And have a day and night cycle, and you can have Barry's apartment that you can go to and go into his civvies. You can even go to his work and do some stuff in the crime lab. Yeah, I think it would be really easy actually, really easy to make a Flash game. Even easier than an open world Batman game. So yeah, that's what I would do immediately. I would like to see a Green Lantern game too, but that's really difficult to how do you incorporate the power ring in a game? A ring that can do anything, whatever you think of. I mean, that's really impossible to do in a game. You would really have to limit the power ring and just do like a set of different moves that it can make, and that's kind of, you know, like they've done in the fighting games that Green Lantern has appeared in. So yeah, I don't think you can really do that. Next question is by a Red Chariot. If you were the director of a Batman movie, what villains or villain would you use that isn't Two-Face? Well, of course we're gonna get a lot of questions like that. Well, like I said earlier, Scarecrow is a big one. I want to use him almost as much as I want to use Two-Face. Mr. Freeze, Black Mask, Calendar Man and Maxi Zeus. Would be fun to also do Poison Ivy and finally do her justice. I don't really want to do Joker, not just because I'm tired of him, but also because I don't really know what I would do with him, because he's appeared in so many movies. He's been the main character almost in 3 movies where he's done great in all 3 of them. What else is there to do with the Joker on the big screen? I have no idea what to do with him. Mad Hatter, of course, would be a character that I would be interested in doing and finally making into a big villain on the big screen. You could do a lot with him too. You can make it a really weird, surreal movie with his powers. Next question by Penguin Party 119. Well, that's actually another 3-question part deal here. What's your all-time favorite movie? What's my all-time favorite movie? I think that would either be The Thing, the original, well, not the original, the remake from 1982 by John Carpenter, or Aliens, the sequel to Alien. Second question, any good ideas to make Film Freak more popular? Ravinsky, is this you? Give him a good costume. His design looks terrible. He's just a bald dude. Why can't he wear, like, I don't know, like different iconic movie characters' costumes all slapped together into one? Yeah, just do something movie themed for a costume for him. Some kind of movie themed costume. And of course, just use him more. He's never used. He really only appeared in one big story in the 1980s. Then he was killed off in Nightfall, and then later there was a second replacement Film Freak in Catwoman. There hasn't really been anything else with the character, so use him more and give him a good costume. He's got a neat gimmick, the whole movie thing. You can have him quote classic movie lines. He can be a really fun character. And his final question, if you were to send a day, I think he means spend a day, with any supervillain, who would it be and why? I don't know if I want to spend a day with any supervillain. I mean, they're dangerous people. They might kill me. I don't really think I want to hang out with Harvey Dent, because I might get the coin if I don't know, for any reason, really. He's not very predictable, that guy. The Riddler is a smug asshole. I don't think I want to hang out with him. He just insults me constantly. And yeah, a little Scarecrow, he would really creep me out. Probably torture me. The Penguin, maybe. He seems like a cool dude sometimes. You know, just hang out with the Penguin in the Iceberg Lounge. Have some drinks. Kite Man seems like a cool dude too. Relaxed and casual. The Flash Rogues also seem pretty cool and casual. Just hanging out with the Rogues in a bar, drinking brewskis. That could be fun. Obviously Killer Moth, and talk about all of his failures and how badly he wants to be a supervillain. Next question is by Henry Ward. If you were to make one change each for a Batman villain that appeared in your Forgotten Supervillains series, what would you change and why? It doesn't have to be all the Forgotten Batman villains. Yeah, this question really needs an entire video of its own. So let's just take one Forgotten Batman villain. Let's pick the very first one I ever did, Clayface 3. Bring him back, just bring him back. Make him a character again and change his name. You can't call a character Clayface 3. Nobody's gonna care about a character named that. Just name him, I don't know, Payne. His last name is Payne. You can spell it as, you know, P-A-I-N. Make it a sort of pun, I guess. He brings pain to people and his name is Payne. Just Mr. Payne. Just name him Mr. Payne. And bring him back. That's the change I would do. He shouldn't be associated with Clayface. He's so different anyway. He's not a shapeshifter. The next question is from Deshaun Edwards. If you made a Batman film where the villains are underrated Batrogues, which underrated Batrogues would you pick to be in it? Well, another question that I've basically already answered. Maxi Zeus and Calendar Man, those are my first picks. And I guess Mr. Payne, as I just talked about, that would be fun to do. A horror movie with him. Man-Bat, can you call him an underrated villain? I would like to do that. It would be pretty cool to feature the Cavalier in the movie as a supporting villain or character. Obviously not the main villain. Magpie would also be cool to put in a movie. If I made an Arkham movie set in Arkham Asylum, Magpie would definitely be among the inmates. Next question from Black Sun. Are you happy with how the channel is going at the moment? Or another question, have you ever regretted making a video? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it's going at the moment. I like doing these videos that I'm doing right now and appearing in front of the camera. It's both more fun and a lot easier, and it makes video production a lot faster as well. Now that I don't have to deal with scripts and separate audio files, it basically cuts the job in half or more. And I'm kind of trying out just different things now that I think is fun. Instead of just sticking to the same old series like Forgotten Supervillains and so on, that was really boring after a while. Like I really felt just like a chore. Ever regretted making a video? No, I don't think so. Obviously I have some videos that are kind of but I don't think I've ever regretted ever making a video. Next question from a guy. Are you okay with fans producing comics to take place within your Roguesverse? Yeah, sure, go ahead. Next question, Jacob Dellert. If Rocksteady were to make another Batman game in the Arkhamverse, do you think Nightwing or Terry McGinnis would be the best main character? Yeah, I think both ways could work. You could make a game set very shortly after Arkham Knight, where Nightwing is the main character and is taking care of Gotham, you know, after the absence of Batman, and has to deal with all these other supervillains going completely nuts all over the city. Well, I guess that's what they're doing with this other game, Gotham Knights, but that's not set in the Arkhamverse, I'm pretty sure, or is it? I don't know. Of course, with Terry McGinnis, you could do a Batman Beyond game, and I think honestly that might be more fun, because it would be a very different game, a futuristic sci-fi game. In a futuristic Gotham. The only thing I wouldn't like about it is that you probably wouldn't feature many, or maybe not at all, classic Batman villains. You would just feature villains from Batman Beyond the show. I don't really care about those villains. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, how are you gonna squeeze in like a 9-year-old Edward Nygma in the game? Yeah. But yeah, games like that could definitely work. Next question from Stevie Quill. Have you read some story arcs from Hellboy? If so, do you like them? Mike Mignola is my favorite comic book artist. He also draws an awesome Batman. He sure does draw an awesome Batman. And no, I have sadly not read any Hellboy comics, unfortunately. I do like Mignola's art though, and I do like the second Hellboy movie. That's one of my favorite comic book movies. M. Rowley asks, after the success of the Joker solo movie, who would you make an origin movie of? My pick is Scarecrow. Well, we all know it is. Two-Face, of course. Two-Face! Two-Face! Nothing but Two-Face. I would make 10 Two-Face solo movies. Nah, just one. One's enough. But okay, let's exclude Two. Let's not mention him, put him to the side. Who else would I make? I don't think I would make Scarecrow, honestly. I want to see Scarecrow in a Batman movie. Be the main villain in a Batman movie and just be really creepy and sinister and evil and really scare the crap out of the audience. I think it works better if he's the villain as opposed to the protagonist. The Penguin, a Penguin gangster movie, I guess, but we're kind of getting that with the show, the HBO Max show or whatever it is, tied in with the Matt Reeves movie, so I guess there's really no need for that anymore. I want to say Lex Luthor, but That's an obvious pick and could easily work, but I don't really want to see it. I don't care about... I'm tired of Lex Luthor. He's been used in a million movies. Who would I want to see besides Two-Face? The Shade. I want to see a Shade movie. That's something I really want to see. He can easily hold up his own movie too and be the protagonist because he is kind of morally ambiguous. So yeah, I think that's the thing I want to see the most after Two-Face. The Shade movie. I don't think that's ever gonna happen though. Probably not. Next question from Samuel Williams. Will you ever make a list of your favorite comic book rogues galleries? Possibly. Yeah, why not? I mean, we all know what the number one is gonna be, but yeah, no, that's definitely a potential video. Badinator, if you were gonna be part of a current DC movie, who do you think you would be playing, hero or villain? Oh, as an actor, I can't act, but I don't know. People say I kind of look like Harvey Dent, but my voice sure doesn't fit him. I do a lot better Scarecrow voice. I don't know, I'm really tall and lanky, so just dress me up in a Scarecrow costume and I'll play the Scarecrow. Next question, Leading Faction asks, have you ever tried to make your own fan casting of your favorite Bat-Rogues? For if they appeared in a movie and or you made your own. Yeah, I have, but I'm not very good at it. I don't really know that many current actors. Except the really big ones. I know older actors better, but you know, that's like, and I have done that, you know, I like imagined what if I made a Batman movie back in the 90s instead of Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher. I would have picked these actors and that actors. Yeah, it's not really something that I think about a lot. I couldn't really do it for a modern movie because, as I said, I don't really know the current actors that well, except for the really big ones. I would definitely have picked Alec Baldwin as Batman back in the 90s and late 80s. I think he proved definitely in the Shadow movie that he would have been perfect for Batman Bruce Wayne. A lot better than any of the actors who played him back then. Next question is Jack of All Claws asking... are we ever going to see more underrated Heroes episodes? Not trying to sound rude or selfish, it's just that those videos, as well as the history of villains ones, were probably some of my favorite videos from you. Hearing your thoughts on some of the more obscure characters were really entertaining. Also, is Hillbrook Asylum dead? I don't know, that wasn't very rude or selfish. You're fine, but yeah, I get it. People like those videos, they want more, but those videos are a lot of work, They will take a lot of time to produce, and I don't find them fun to produce any longer. I don't know about making underrated or forgotten heroes episodes ever again. That does seem pretty unlikely, but I may do underrated villains again. It's not gonna be the same format though that I used. It's gonna be something more like this. That could very well happen. I don't know when and exactly how though. As for history of videos, now those are massive amounts of work. If I find a way to make it easier, less work, Maybe I might bring him back, we'll see. And is Hillbrook Asylum dead? Well, yes. For me it is. For my part it is. I'm not really gonna make any more Hillbrook content. It's pretty much over. But there is still activity on the Facebook page, the group page. There are still people posting there. Next question from Sidewinder. What's your take on the latest modern Batman comics in general? I don't really read much of it, so I can't really say for sure. But I do think there's way too many big arcs and events, not enough smaller stories, and they introduce way too many new villains, OCs. Each writer has to create like 10 original characters. I want to see the classic rogues. Stop creating your own characters. You can create a couple, sure. But it's mostly just new villains, and most people don't really care that much about them anyway. Yeah, so my take is that I don't really like what I've seen so far that much. Next question is from Crowbirdies. Crowbirdies says, "Hey Rogues man, I got a shocker question. What draws you to lesser known or utilized villains in Rogues galleries instead of just hyper-fixating on the A-listers? From folks with inconsistent takes like Dollmaker to folks with one good niche take like Hydro-Man and Magpie to a few lost cause cases. I don't think I've seen you ever go into it, and most people don't do so either. As another thing, how do you deal with fave character disrespect? You let it bounce. Does it get to you? What? Also, what's your favorite type of candy and favorite type of Swedish meatball?" Also, Davey says hi. Well, hi Davey. Long time no see. What, you don't have a question for me, Davey? What draws me to all of these pathetic, overlooked losers? Well, because not much has been done with them. That obviously leaves room for a lot of creativity, and they have a lot of untapped potential, and that allows you to do stuff with them, as opposed to big characters that have been featured in 1,000 stories already. People have kind of already done all there is to do with them. I mean, but with characters like the Dollmaker, for example, since not much has been done with him, that leaves me a lot more to do with him. A lot more options. And also, I guess I'm a sucker for the underdog. I find a character that's underrated, and I just kind of get intrigued by him. Like, people aren't paying really any attention to this character, but I think he seems kind of cool. So I want to see more of him. And you know, you're just tired of the big characters. You want to see something else. And you discover that there's this old character that's only appeared in, like, I don't know, 3 stories maybe, for example, and like, why? I want to see more of this character, that this was a cool character. And fave character disrespect, like when people are insulting Two-Face. I don't like that very much. I get very angry. Like you always see in the server, someone badmouths Two-Face, I go and say, no, I do kind of let it get to me, to be honest. If somebody badmouths Two-Face, I get upset and angry and want to murder people. I'm sorry, this is how it is. I can't really control it. Immature, yes, I know, but it is what it is. Favorite type of candy? My favorite type of candy is chocolate. And favorite type of Swedish meatball is big ones. Big Swedish meatballs. Those are the ones I like the most. Next question is from Count Vertigo. I would really like to know if there ever was a time where you quit comics for a while, perhaps even years, and if so, what was the turning point or event that brought you back? Yeah, that's definitely happened. Not years, but there's definitely been some periods where I've just been kind of tired of reading comics. I mean, honestly, I am now. I don't read comics that often right now. I feel like I've read the comics I want to read. And I feel like they aren't really producing any all that interesting comics, new comics. There are some that I'm interested in, and I am going to read them eventually. But not many. I think a lot of people come to a point where they get older and they've just read so many comics, they just don't really feel like there's a whole lot more worth to read. Maybe I need to start getting into different genres. Maybe I need to stop reading superhero comics and read something else. Maybe that's it. Next question from Cyclops Boxhead. You've mentioned how some Batrogues would be better suited fighting a different hero, like Orca for Aquaman. Are there any other Batrogues you think would be better utilized against another DC hero? Probably, but those I mentioned in that video were the top 5. I guess, like a lot of people suggest, Maxi Zeus would be very well suited fighting Wonder Woman. I do agree there. But at the same time, I kind of prefer him as a Batman villain. But I would rather see just lend him out to Wonder Woman every now and then. Have a couple of stories where she faces him. Next question from Sword Turtles. If I wanted to create a truly brilliant rogue, what should I go for? I've been greatly inspired by your content, but I feel something is missing. Advice from the great Mr. Ronks himself. Motives, abilities, background. With my usual stuff, they are only ideas that stay in the brewing pot, waiting to be stirred into a fully fleshed out character, and I never seem to be able to continue after a while. I'm really bad at giving writing advice. I don't really know what to say to people when they ask me for writing advice. I just kinda get an idea and then they'll just run with it. I don't know how my writing process really works, but I mean, it seems like you have all the ingredients here. Motive, ability, and background. A good theme, gimmick, you also need that. The visual design, maybe start off with the visual design and the gimmick, the most superficial parts, and then kind of go from there, build on that. Like say you have a character that's somehow in some way disfigured in the face. How does he react to that, and what does that drive him to do? How does it tie in with his gimmick? How did he get disfigured? All of that. I don't really know. I'm terrible at giving writing advice, I'm sorry. The Thing asks, is there any other Rogues Galleries you like, or is it just Batman, Spider-Man, The Flash, and Superman? Well, those are the main ones, but I also like the Legion of Superheroes Rogues Gallery. And I kind of like the Daredevil Rogues Gallery, a few of them at least, and some of the X-Men villains. And if we're gonna talk outside of superheroes, or at least DC and Marvel, I like Darkwing Duck Rogues Gallery, and the Tick Rogues Gallery, the James Bond Rogues Gallery. And next question from Captain Clown. We all miss you in the server, by the way, you left again. What are your thoughts on the DCAU's take on the Toyman? As a fellow fan of the character, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on what many, including myself, consider to be the gold standard. Well, I'm sorry I can't really answer that question because I haven't seen his episodes in a million years. I do like the design though, this creepy doll design. They definitely went for a creepier take on that show. That's interesting, and I really need to rewatch them. I haven't seen those episodes since I was a kid. Usually I consider the classic Winslow Shot comics to be the gold standard though, but I don't know, when I've rewatched those episodes I might agree with you. We'll see. Next question from Arthur W. Burling. Mr. Rogues, have you heard of the anime show Monster by Naoki Urasawa? You have to see it, because I'm 99.9% sure you would love it. Keep up the great work on your channel. Thank you. I'm gonna try at least. I've heard of it, yes. I've heard of it many times throughout the years. But I have not seen it. It's always listed as one of the greatest animes of all time, I know. I guess I should see it someday, yeah. Zemo X2 asks, what are your thoughts on the current crop of DC Comics? Another very similar question to an earlier one. Don't really know, haven't really looked into it too much. I am interested in the Batman 89 comics, still haven't read it. I was interested in the Fear State arc since it seemed to feature the Scarecrow as a major character, but I've heard it's disappointing, so don't really know what else is really going on in the DC universe. I don't know what's going on in The Flash, and Superman, and Green Lantern. I don't really know. I don't keep up with that anymore. I've kind of given up on it. Next question from YouTube. Peps, if Matt Reeves made 2 more Batman films after The Batman, what villains do you think would fit the series the best? Well, it seems like he's going for a gritty, realistic take. Kind of very similar to Nolan. An obvious one is, oh god, here I go again, Two-Face. I mean, obviously, if you're going for a noirish, gritty, realistic take, Two-Face is the one that pops to mind first. Besides him, you know, yeah, of course, Joker would fit, but who really wants to see him again? Black Mask would be a great one. He would fit in perfectly as well. I mean, I do hope that he goes more fantastical in the sequels and that we can get villains like Poison Ivy and Clayface and Mr. Freeze. I hope so, because I would really like to see those in movies. Next question from Carnage Host 777. Who would you make the main villain in an upcoming Batman movie, or what are your complete thoughts on Carnage? Main villain upcoming Batman movie, well, Two-Face, Scarecrow, those are the 2 main ones. Carnage, I have seen that movie, and I thought it was okay. It really needed an R rating, you know, you could really feel that PG-13 rating in the violent scenes. Oh, it was so lacking in the... I mean, there wasn't even any blood, yet people were being massacred by Carnage, yet you didn't really see anything, and yeah. But I did like the portrayal of Carnage as a character and his girlfriend Shriek. I felt that Venom himself was way too goofy. Too many silly jokes, but an okay movie, and I did like the villains. Next question or questions is from Lego Arkham Productions. What is your favorite video that you've made? And why? Or are you like me and you hate all your own videos for no real reason? You do that? Well, you shouldn't do that. Which rogue that you've covered or in Forgotten Supervillains is your favorite? And which is your favorite underrated rogue that you've covered? If you were allowed to write any superhero title at DC that isn't Batman, which would it be? No, it can't be a villain. Ah, darn you. What video of yours was the hardest to make and which took the longest? My favorite video that I've made and why? I don't know, the second part of the All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder series. That was a hoot to make. My favorite rogue in the Forgotten Villains series. Maybe the first one, Preston Payne. Well, I have a lot of favorites. White Rabbit, the Marvel version, not the Batman version, and the Cavalier, Ruby Thursday, the Tallyman. There's a lot of them. I can't really pick one. Maybe I'll do a list someday. I'll really sit down and think like which are my very favorites ranked. I might do that. Write any superhero title isn't Batman. Kinda leaning between Flash and Green Lantern, I guess. They are my two favorites after Batman, after all. So probably one of those. Hardest to make, took the longest. Well, that would be the complete history of videos, all of them. They took a lot of time and they were so much work and research and just gathering pictures to use in the video was a giant chore. Just writing the scripts took days. It was massive amounts of work and I don't ever want to do that again. If I'm gonna do those types of videos again, I'm gonna have to change the way I do them. Next question from JT Warsham. If you directed a Batman movie, how would you introduce characters like Clayface, Poison Ivy, the right way, and Scarface? How I would introduce them? I don't really know. I would show their origin and there they are. I don't know. In the case of Ivy, maybe you could have her as a supporting character in one movie first and then turn her into Poison Ivy in the next one. Might be a good idea so you don't just ape off Batman and Robin that quickly did her origin within the first 20 minutes of the movie or whatever, and then you have her as a villain. Maybe I would do that, have her as a supporting character at first. Maybe she works at Wayne Enterprises. Maybe Bruce Wayne is even dating her. I don't know. That could be something. The next question from Warren Drozdowski. Do you like Huey Lewis in the News? They're okay. Also, thoughts on the hit movie Venom, Let There Be Carnage, directed by hashtag Andy Serkis, starring hashtag Tom Hardy as hashtag Eddie Brock, hashtag Venom, and hashtag Woody Harrelson as hashtag Cletus Cassidy, hashtag Carnage. I just gave the thoughts in another question, so just rewind the video back to that to hear my thoughts on the movie. Also, hi Warren, how are you today? Hope you're doing well. Hashtag hope you're doing well, Warren, today. Next question from Cross here. If you were to oversee a Two-Face DC event like Joker War or City of Bane, what would your storyline be? Really, a Two-Face event? I don't think that's ever happened before. Well, the first idea to come to mind would be that he takes over Gotham City and tries to turn it into some kind of police state of sorts, where he just puts people that he finds guilty on the stand and puts them in a kangaroo court, takes over the city and judges the guilty, including lots of major characters like the mayor and Commissioner Gordon and maybe even Batman himself. I think that's the obvious thing to do in a Two-Face event. Maybe you could do something more fantastical and he somehow splits the city in two. One half good, one half evil. I mean, that's also, I guess, a pretty obvious one to make. How you would exactly do it, that's a bit tricky. Next question, not Spider-Man 777. Are there any creative decisions you regret making on the Arkham Patience sessions? Well, probably not building up Jeremiah Arkham's Descent into Madness well enough. The idea was to slowly make him go more insane, but just I didn't really do it for some reason. There are some hints. I mean, you have obviously the Riddler episode where he electrocutes Riddler, and you have the Catwoman episode where he's being really weird and creepy with Selina, and of course the penultimate episode, Dr. Death, where he just berates Dr. Death, which is really not professional. But I should have done more. I don't regret killing him off. That was really the only way to do it. If I left him alive and had him be a patient in Arkham, all you people would have been asking, when's Jeremiah Arkham coming back? When's Jeremiah Arkham coming back? No, it was over with him. I was jumping over to Hugo Strange in his story. I was done with Jeremiah, so I had to kill him off, because otherwise you would have been just bringing him up constantly. So I don't regret that. But I should have built up his journey to his suicide better. I mean, in the first season, I was kind of taking it episode by episode. I wasn't really looking at it as an arc, as I did later in the Hugo Strange seasons. It really was more just like a one-shot thing. Was focusing on each session and on the inmates being interviewed rather on Jeremiah. Next question from Dark Knight Fan 75. What was your main inspiration for the Arkham Patient videos, and would you want to make a comic of your own? My main inspiration, obviously, the Arkham tapes from the Arkham Asylum games and the SCP Foundation, especially the videos by the Volgan, and of course my own Hillbrook Asylum videos. Yeah, those three things were the main inspirations. Would I like to make a comic of your own? Sure, I would like to write a comic of my own, not draw one. I made a comic of my own last year. Comet Man, both wrote it and drew it and everything, and it was a heck of a chore. So much work. I don't think I ever want to do that again. But I sure would like to write comics. Yes, definitely. That's what I really want to do. Well, write Batman comics, obviously. Next question from RB Swords. Okay, say you're told to make a Poison Ivy movie as well as a Cheetah movie. How would you do these two projects? I don't know. Well, a Poison Ivy movie, I've already kind of discussed Ivy in a movie, so, you know, just something like that. Or you mean a Poison Ivy solo movie? I guess there's lots of ways you could take it. Focus on her slowly going madder and more obsessed with plants and starting to imagine that plants are talking to her and stuff like that. Maybe she doesn't have any. I think I would make it, if I made an Ivy solo movie, I would make it ambiguous whether she actually has powers over plants or not. Or is it all in her head? I think that would be more interesting if she is the protagonist. But if she's the villain in a Batman movie, I would just go with the classic take that she definitely has powers. A Cheetah movie, that's kind of out of the left field. I don't know. I think she was done horribly in the Wonder Woman movie, the second movie. That was an awful take on Cheetah. She was basically just the muscle of the movie. They built her up pretty good, and then she just ends up being the henchwoman for Maxwell Lord. That was terrible. Terrible. So yeah, I would not do that. I would do the opposite of that. Now I think I would just go with the classic comics where she's this arrogant, aristocratic, rich woman explorer who goes into the jungles. She's obsessed with these ancient relics, and she's a very nasty person and selfish and just willing to sacrifice everyone else in order to get to these relics, and only cares about that. And she gets these powers and becomes even worse. Yeah, I think I would do that. Just make her very unlikable, I guess. Next question from Kadwa. How old are you? I'm 31 at the moment. Is top 5 Metallo stories a good idea? I actually tried to do that once, but I couldn't find any. I read through a ton of Metallo stories and they all stunk. They weren't good. Your favorite Scarecrow story right now? It will still be the Mistress of Fear, actually. And did you read the new run with Scarecrow that he's a big main villain in it? I didn't. Fair State. No, I haven't read it yet. I was interested in reading it, but I've heard it's very disappointing, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it now. Next question from Billy McCrary. Will you do a top 5 video of villains you would like to see in either the Batman animated series or Beware the Batman? Oh, you mean villains that I would have liked to have appeared in those shows. Not Beware, but yeah, maybe the Batman, because there was a ton of ones missing on that show, which makes that show less good than what it really could have been, because you were missing so many classic villains. I might do that actually. Thank you for that video suggestion, Billy. The next one is Nazos Topalides. 2 questions. Will there ever be a really good adaptation of Green Lantern outside of comics? How am I supposed to know, man? I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. Are we getting that HBO Max show? That might be good. Let's hope it is. Well, there is actually a good one. The animated movie, Green Lantern First Flight, that's a really good movie. And when did you get into the world of comics? Well, I've always been into it. I've been reading comics since I was a little kid. The Phantom comics and other stuff that was really popular in Sweden. So yeah, always been. And of course I read my dad's old black and white comics from the 70s and 80s. He had a ton of those, his old collection of Swedish comics. The Phantom, again. Phantom was really popular here in Scandinavia. James Bond comics. No DC comics. I didn't grow up with DC comics. I didn't start reading DC until I was in my early teens. I was 14. And I started buying old comic books. Old Batman and Superman comics from the 70s and 80s. A store that sold a bunch of old crap. Next question from Amanda Raharjo. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the current Batman run. Again, I'm sorry, I can't give my thoughts. It doesn't seem that interesting to me though, which is the problem. Next question is from Ricky Andrews. What filmmakers would you like to see take on Batman or any DC character? Honestly, I don't really know. It would be kind of fun to see Quentin Tarantino do a superhero movie. I guess that's an obvious one. A lot of people suggest that, and it's of course never gonna happen. He's only planning to make one more movie, and I really doubt it's gonna be a DC movie. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not that familiar with current filmmakers. Next one is Nicciardo. I'm kind of curious. How did you get into comics? I just answered this question. Sorry. Next one is Gerardo Fuentes. Asks, will you do a review of the movie The Long Halloween? It's better than a comic in my opinion, and they do a great job with the rogues like Candleman, Scarecrow, and Two-Faces. I will not actually. I was planning on doing it. I have seen it now, both parts, and I thought they were okay and definitely better than the comics, and Two-Face was definitely better than the comics, and Scarecrow, yes, he was cool. Like the design and the voice actor. I don't really have a whole lot to say though, so I also found the movies to be kind of dull. The characters also were kind of dull, and while I liked Two-Face in the movie, even he was a little bit dull. Just over, that's my, that's, if I'm gonna describe those two movies with one word, it's gonna be dull. But they were better than the comic. Yeah, I'm not gonna make a video. I don't really have anything to say. Although I was planning on doing it before I actually saw the movies. Next question is from M. Lanzoni. Riddle me this. What is the best way to take down a Batman? Shoot him in the head. I don't know. Next question is from Code Geass Anime Fan, aka Bugs. We all missed you in the server, Bugs. Do you plan on giving the Snyder Cut of Justice League a chance? Yeah. I mean, I don't have like a planned date to sit down and watch it. But I'll probably watch it eventually. I'm pretty sure I will. Next question is from Adam Crunchy. Which DC villains do you think should have been on Batman the Brave and the Bold? Not so much which I should have been on it, but more so which ones should have been used more, because they didn't really use a lot. Like most of them appeared just very briefly or in just one episode. I think they should have used a lot of them more than what they actually did. Next one from Coyote Wash. Which language can you understand other than Swedish and English? None! If you could make your own DC Comics cinematic universe, what are you gonna do? Same with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ooh, can you make Doctor Strange video? Ooh, that's this video is already getting super long. I don't think I can answer this. I already did answer actually about the DC Cinematic Universe. Already have answered that one. As for a Marvel one, no clue. I think they've already done a great job. I don't think there's anything I could add. A Doctor Strange video, I don't think so, because I don't really know anything about him. The next one is from Lone Cyberman. If you had to create the new big Batman villain, the 2020's equivalent to Bane, what would it be and what story would you tell with it? I really don't know. Really don't know. If I were to create the new Batman villain at all, I think I would just take one of my Hillbrook Asylum characters and put him in Batman. I think some of them could fit in pretty well, like Flatface. You people who know Hillbrook, don't you think Flatface would have fitted in really well in Gotham City? I personally think he would. I don't think he could be the next big villain though. I don't really like these things, the next big villain, so actually I would never try to do that. I wouldn't try to do that. I don't like it when they do that. I don't think there should be the villain to end all villains. I think there should be just tons of rogues, and they're all kind of equal, most of them. Next question is from Josh Flowers. If you had to make a Batman movie where Two-Face was the main villain, how would it be? Who would you cast as Two-Face? Well, lots of ideas. I think I've discussed some of these ideas already. I think there's lots of ideas to do Two-Face in a movie. Who I would cast? I don't know. I have no clue really. A lot of people suggest Jon Hamm. Think he could be good, but he might be getting a bit too old now. If you're doing a movie set later in Batman's career, I think he could still play him, but if you're doing like Batman in his prime or a younger Batman, I don't think he could do it. Besides him, I don't really know, to be honest. Next question, Michael H. asks, make a video in Swedish and add subtitles and see the response. Haha, would be hilarious. Yes, maybe it would. Maybe I will. Thank you for that suggestion. I can't promise the subtitles will be accurate though. I would like to see comic reviews from others than DC's Nid Marvel, maybe Dark Horse or Image Comics. Yeah, I would like to do that, but I haven't really read a ton of that. Really haven't. I've read some, but not much, so I don't think I can do it. I've always kind of wanted to make a video on The Mask, because I have read some Mask comics. Of course, I've seen the movie a million times. It's a movie that I grew up with, so potentially a Mask video of some kind in the future, maybe. Erwin also asks, what are your other hobbies and interests outside of comics? Follow-up, do you do anything apart from these videos to make money? Other hobbies and interests? I don't really have any, to be honest. No, I can't really think of any hobbies and interests that I have outside of this kind of stuff, or things related to comics and movies, and well, I like horror movies and horror games. Does that count? That's still kind of related somewhat. Yeah, I'm a big nerd. I like nerdy stuff. Do I make anything apart from these videos to make money? No, not at the moment. I used to have a job. I used to have a job that I worked at for 10 years. And I quit earlier this year. There was a whole big thing with that. You remember I was posting a lot about I was having a lot of problems earlier this year, and last year, at the end of last year. And that was related to my job, and I quit now. I quit in April, and now I'm only doing YouTube. The idea was to get a new job. I should have gotten that now, but I decided to instead try and turn this whole YouTube thing into a career, because it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun, and it's what I want to do. So I am kind of insane here, and I'm trying to turn my YouTube channel into a career. Yeah, let's see how that goes. I really hope it's gonna work out though. Next question from Arthur Fleck himself asks, thoughts on Grant Morrison's Batman run? I haven't read all of it. I've only read bits and pieces, and I'm not really that crazy about it. Grant Morrison explores a lot of weird ideas, which is not quite what I want to see with Batman, and he does not use the classic villains a whole lot. He's also another writer who creates a lot of OCs. Don't really care about his OCs all that much. Except for Pig, I guess. Professor Pig is the only one that I kind of care about. So yeah, it's, in my opinion, I would say it's overrated. It doesn't interest me that much. This question is from DC Knight. Which Arkham session was the hardest to make and why? Probably the Clayface one, because I had to do so many different voices in it, and the Clayface default voice was very hard on my throat. So yeah, probably that one. It was also really hard to come up with a script for it, because originally I wanted to do something like the Jane Doe session, but then I used that idea for Jane Doe. So what the heck was I gonna do with Clayface? So yeah, that was actually both hard in performing the voices and in writing. So definitely, yes, the Clayface was the hardest to do. The next one is from Resident TDK 007. Do you think our boy Jonathan Crane will ever be done justice in a live-action film where he gets to be the main antagonist? Also, if any rogue has suffered from DC's over-reliance on Jonker, it has to be the Scarecrow. Jonker kills Crane in Injustice and steals his fear toxin, Jonker being in a majority of Arkham Knight, even though he's dead, etc. And yes, let's not forget, he killed him in the Harley Quinn animated series in a very humiliating fashion too, and Jonker was just his henchman. Yeah, Jonker has humiliated Scarecrow a lot. Scarecrow has suffered a lot at the hands of the Jonker. Yeah, this is really true actually. Goddamn Jonker. Will he ever? Will he ever? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't answer that. I really hope though. I really hope. And again, if I was in charge of DC movies, Batman movies, that would be one of my main priorities. To do Scarecrow justice and make him the big villain. And actually make him creepy and scary. Next question from Dakota. What made you want to start the Arkham series? And what is your original plan to make the videos tied together into a story? Well, I was doing the Hillbrook sessions first. And then I realized that, hey, these are kind of working. I could do these for the Arkham characters. That's really what got me started into that. My original plan to tie together into a story, well at first they weren't really gonna be. They were just gonna be one-shots. We were just gonna hint at Jeremiah being kinda crazy. Then about halfway through it I realized I wanted to go all the way and drive him nuts and potentially have him commit suicide. And also that I wanted to do a second part of this series that focused on Hugo Strange having Batman locked up in Arkham. Next question from Nuggy123. What are your thoughts on Ghost Rider? Not a whole lot of thoughts. He's a Marvel character I don't really think a whole lot about. Next question from Starjo the Conqueror. Hi Mr. Rogues. Hi Starjo. I'm a big fan of your channel, and I was just wondering, what is your favorite villain in the DCU, as you're a villain-centric channel? Yes, I sure am. Keep up the great content. I will try. My favorite villain in the DCU. Well, I have a lot of favorites. I like Zod from Man of Steel. I think he's good. I like Sivana from Shazam. I like Starro from the Suicide Squad. If we count Polka Dot Man as a villain, I really like him as well. He would be my favorite. But I don't really count him as a... I mean, he's not an antagonist. So as for antagonist, it stands between Starro, Savannah, and Zod. I'm not really sure who to pick. Next question from John Hitz. Who are your 5 favorite Batman writers? Only in comics. 5 favorite Batman writers. That feels like that should be a video I should do at some point. So I'm not gonna answer that. I will say a couple though, maybe. Paul Dini, obviously, and Chuck Dixon. The Real Super Sam, hello Sam, asks, what are your favorite video games? Will you do more complete history of videos? Well, I've already answered this second question already. Favorite video games? Dead Space 1 is my favorite video game, and I also really like Silent Hill 2. Those two would probably be my top 2 video games. Obviously, I like the Arkham games. I like a lot of horror games. Outlast and Soma and... Well, it's hard to find really good horror games, but I like playing horror games. I like the Grand Theft Auto games, especially the 5th one. That's the one that I've been playing recently. every now and then. I honestly don't really play that many games. I'm not really that big of a gamer. I play games every now and then. I used to play a lot of fighting games, but I don't really do it that much anymore, like Soul Calibur and Tekken and Mortal Kombat. Next question from Alex Orozco. What is your earliest exposure to Batman? Comics, TV, film or TV? Not comics. There were no comics, Batman comics in Sweden at the time. I got to those a lot later. So it was either film or TV. I don't remember. I don't remember what it was. It must have been either Batman 89 or the animated series. I'm guessing the animated series, but it was all around at the same time. My earliest memory of Batman is Batman Forever, watching that in either late 95 or early 96. We rented it, not in theaters, we rented it on VHS. That's my earliest memory of Batman, but it's not my first encounter with Batman because I already knew of Batman before seeing that. I already knew of the villains too, Riddler and Two-Face. Two-Face was already my favorite villain. I guess I saw 89 and Returns and the animated series all around at the same time. That was my introduction. That cult dude asks, I don't know if you answered this before at some point. What kept you interested in wanting to read comics? Was it always the villains? Well, in later years it's been the villains, but not initially. Initially it was just I liked these fun, colorful characters fighting each other, you know, the heroes too. I just thought it was cool, these cool, colorful characters fighting each other. But in later years, yes, it's been the villains mainly. Next one is Agarxy. What are your thoughts on the Batman Beyond rogues and the show in general? Well, I don't really like it that much. I remember watching it as a kid. Quite a few episodes, and I never really liked it that much. I didn't really like the style. I do think now that the style looks pretty cool, and I didn't like the fact that the classic Batman villains that I liked so much weren't in it. And I feel the same way about that. And I didn't like the fact that it wasn't the real Batman, it was a fake Batman. That's how I felt as a kid. This isn't Batman, who's this? Terry who? What now? That's not Batman. Yeah, I do prefer it when it's Bruce Wayne in the costume. I think the show is alright now, but I'm not crazy about it. I never have been, and I don't think I ever will be. Next question is from John F. Kennedy himself. Wow, John F. Kennedy is a fan of me? That's pretty cool. Yes, 4 questions even. 1. What do you think of the Zero-Year Riddler? I think he's pretty great. Definitely not my definitive Riddler, but works really well as an alternate Riddler. 2. What do you think of the Batman Brave and the Bold Riddler? You never talk about him. Wow, a lot of Riddler questions here. John F. Kennedy is a really big Riddler fan, apparently. I never talk about him, really? Well, there's not much to say about him. He's a very, very basic, generic villain. That's really it. He appeared in a big role in 1 episode, and in the movie Brave and the Bold meets Scooby-Doo, or whatever it was called. He was the main villain in that movie. And in all of that, he was a very generic, standard, just evil villain doing evil stuff. Not much to say about him, really. An okay Riddler, just fine. He looks great, though. I love the design. 3. Joker versus Riddler. What's your take on it? Riddler, of course. Screw Joker. 4. Did you get all the Riddler trophies in all the Arkham games? How was your experience? No, I did not. I did in the first game. In Arkham Asylum, I did indeed get all the trophies. But in the other ones, no, not even close. My experience, it was fine. I don't think it's as tedious as everyone makes it out to be. I don't get it when people complain so much about the Riddler trophies. I mean, yeah, if you're going for collecting every single one of them in all the games, yes, I get it. It gets kind of tedious, probably. But if you're not doing that and you're just kind of collecting them randomly when you feel like it, it's no big deal. Next question is, so I better wrap this up. The battery in my camera is about to be drained. Kevin Fox, you keep saying that the Court of Owls has a lot of potential. What exactly could be done to make them better? Give them more personality. Make some actual characters there among them. You can't make them all faceless. And get rid of the talents. I don't like that concept. It's stupid. Next question. Jack Swan. Any plans to return to Hillbrook Asylum? No. The next question from ToonBat. Which villains do you feel would work better if they were transferred to another hero supervillain gallery? I've already talked about that in the recent video, and yeah, I don't have enough time to answer that more. Kobe Hubbard asks, since you once did Arkham Patient sessions, could you do the same with Marvel Ravencroft Insane Asylum for Spider-Man villains? Probably not, and I do think there's a channel that does that. I forget the name. There was somebody who did that. One of my viewers actually went and did that, so hopefully you can find that. Will Moore asks, who would you want to cast as Harvey Dent Two-Face in a solo Two-Face flick? No clue, sorry. Homicidal Hippo, would you ever consider playing the Arkham games in a video series? No. Whenever I play a video game, it gets very low views. People don't like seeing me playing video games apparently, so no more of that. Milan Bireput asks, who is the most attractive supervillain? Me, of course. Next question, Dial Dude asks, who is the most underrated villain and hero in comics in your opinion, and why? I don't know, there's so many. I don't know, there's just so many. One really underrated hero, the Atom, and I fear he's never really gonna get his due because of Ant-Man. Ant-Man is so popular now with the movies, and everyone's just gonna see the Atom as a Ant-Man ripoff. Cameo Shadowness, hello Cam, asks, if you could replace Batman with any non-Bat family hero, who would you pick and why? Non-Bat family hero? Well, I wouldn't really want to do that. Batman is fine as he is and where he is. No, actually, it would be kind of fun to do an experimental thing where you take a superpowered character and have him be Batman for a while, like Barry Allen. Barry Allen dresses up as Batman for a while. Wonder what the city and the villains would react to that. Squiffin asks, what would the plot of a live-action movie about Danny the Street be future? I have no idea. Tommy Wiseau asks, wow, Tommy Wiseau is a fan as well. What made you decide to do epic Mr. Ronk's face reveal face cam videos recently? Love the videos, by the way. Well, it's easier to do and a lot more fun, and that's why I decided to do it. I think we can connect better too. Well, my camera died. Let's just get this over with really quick now. Gary in the Frozen asks, can you do a video where you show off your comic collection, Batman collection, or Two-Face collection? Yes, that's very possible to happen in the future. Joshua Nelson asks, what are some of your least favorite comics featuring the Joker and Two-Face? Well, my least favorite Two-Face story is probably The Face Schism, a two-parter from 1995 or 96 by Doug Mensch and Kelly Jones. It's a really terrible Two-Face story, but they had a great premise, but executed horribly. There's some others too, like the mini-series Jekyll and Hyde. I don't like that one, the one with Murray Dent. There's probably a couple others too. As for Joker, I don't really know. That's really hard to tell. Joker is so easy to write, I think, that it's kind of difficult to make a really bad Joker story. There probably are bad Joker stories out there, but I can't think of any at the top of my head. Next question, Sarah Sims asks, since your Arkham sessions were a success, have you ever considered making more based on other hero properties? They don't have to be DC, but they can take place in prisons. Yes, I have. I've actually considered doing one based on the Green Lantern mythos of all things. Owen sessions, Owen Science Cell sessions, where there would be some kind of an android having some kind of interview or whatever with the inmates of the Owen science cells at OA, and I would feature various alien rogues from the DC universe, not just Green Lantern rogues. We would have also like characters like Brainiac and Despero and Starro. Yeah, very possible that that's never gonna happen, but yeah, I don't know, we'll see. Daniel Fontura asks, what powers would you have and for what purpose would you use them for? I would like to have all of Superman's powers, please, and I would of course use them for my own personal gain. I would become a supervillain and occasionally a hero when I feel like it. Hollow Onion asks, what would your version of a Nightwing series be like? No real clue. I'm not really that interested in Nightwing. I'm not really a big Bat family guy. I prefer Batman working alone, so I've never even thought about this. Wapasnarf asks, have you read the Grant Morrison Batman run yet? If so, what are your thoughts on it? I just answered that earlier. Morris Colpam asks, how do you read your comics? Digitally or do you buy trade paperbacks? Both, although I do prefer to buy them and have them in physical form, but sometimes, you know, it's just too many comics, you can't buy them all, and some are impossible to get even in physical form, so I am forced to read them digitally. Cubic Yes asks, what is your opinion about Terraman? That's a pretty strange and very specific question. Terraman, I kind of like the guy. As I mentioned earlier, in my early teens, I bought a lot of old Superman and Batman comics. In a lot of those Superman comics from the Bronze Age, there were Terraman stories. So I kind of grew up, sorta, with Terraman. So nostalgia kind of makes me like him. He is a pretty goofy character, though. But yeah, I like him. I actually plan on making a Forgotten Villains video on him couple of years ago or something, but nothing came out of it. Who knows, maybe it'll happen in the future. Mask Dude asks, do you think Tallyman deserves to be shown in an animated show or video game? Absolutely, absolutely. A very underrated villain. Makis Dimakis asks, which 5 Batman stories you would adapt for TV or cinema? Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't think we have time for such a intricate question. Just throwing something out there. Nightfall would be kind of fun to see done more properly. I mean, we kind of got it in The Dark Knight Rises, but I mean something that's a lot more like the comic, where Batman has to go through a gauntlet of this rogues gallery first before meeting Bane. Seeing that in animation, I think, would be kind of cool. As long as each rogue gets their time in the spotlight. I mean, don't rush through it. So you gotta make it a multi-parter. One movie ain't enough. I mean, you could make a whole season of a show based on that, really. David Chalmers asks, if there was one change you could make to Two-Face, what would it be and why? Make him great again. I think that all the villains have kind of fallen in favor of Joker in the last 10 years. Or ever since The Dark Knight came out, I guess. There's just a big distance between them now. Joker up here and the rest kind of down here. It used to be more even, and I guess I would do that, change that to make it more even again, and that includes for Two-Face. Otherwise, I don't want to change him at all. He's perfect the way it is. Pablo Estrada asks, are you ever going to do the top 5 Arkham stories video? You mean stories set in Arkham Asylum, specifically focusing on the asylum? Maybe. I've never really promised doing such. I've never even said I was going to do such a thing, I think. But lots of people have requested it over the years. Might happen. It might happen because there are several such stories, of course. Your Pie Bro asks, do you have any good ideas of making Killer Moth more popular? No, well, feature him in a movie, really, it's that simple, or just a show, anything, a live action show, feature him in live action. I do prefer him as a funny loser though, but that's what I would rather see him as. But in live action, that would be great, in a big role. Actually, speaking of villains in solo movies, an earlier question, Killer Moth would be a great one. I really want to see that, a funny comedic movie about this ordinary guy trying to become a supervillain, but just, you know, not being really good at it. I think that would be great. Experienced Fanatic asks, what do you think about the lack of female villains in Batman and Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery? Catwoman and Ivy and Harley Quinn have all been redeemed and are anti-heroes now. Yes, well, it's not just Batman and Spider-Man, it's all Rogues Galleries, except Wonder Woman, of course. Because she's a woman herself, so she has a ton of female villains. Yeah, that is a shame. It's like they feel that, you know, women aren't allowed to be too evil or something. It seems like it's that because so many of the female villains are being reformed and turned into anti-heroes. I don't get it. We need more evil female characters in comic books. Definitely more, like akin to Killer Frost and Emerald Empress. There's 2 examples of 2 female supervillains who are quite evil. We need more of that. Joe the Reviewer asks, if you were to do a Forgotten Supervillains video on a Doom Patrol villain, who would it be? There's so many to pick, just pick anyone. Cool Teen Jake asks, well, a simple one, what media is your favorite to talk about outside comics? Movies without a doubt. Elwood Denner asks, do you think a Swamp Thing movie could work, or movies could work? If so, how would you do it? Well, we already have a few, aren't there a couple of them from the 80s? I've seen the first one. Quite a while ago now though. Sure, it could work. I don't know how I would do it. I would make it, well, I guess I would make it very dark. Very dark, very horror-ish. Kind of like the Alan Moore run, or you know, also the earlier run from the 70s. We'll just do it like that. Jose Tello asks, what do you think of Superman? Do you think he's one of your favorite heroes? No, not really. I don't really like Superman all that much. I think he's kind of boring. I think he's more interesting when he's on a team, like the Justice League, and you can contrast his personality to the other heroes. I do like Superman's villains more, a lot more than I actually like Superman himself. Next question by Jeffrey Bernstein. How and when did you get into comic books? Already answered that. Castantino asks, after your video about your Flash trilogy, how would you go about doing a Superman trilogy? Well, that needs to be done in a video. And we don't have time anyway. Motorway TS, what are your thoughts on Harvey Dent Two-Face in anime Long Halloween? Well, I already answered that. He was better in the comics, pretty good, but at the same time, for some reason, kind of dull. Can't quite put my finger on it, but I didn't enjoy him as much as I should have. Slimebo asks, most overrated villains? Joker, Lex Luthor, Harley Quinn, Deathstroke, Darkseid. And that's just DC. What would you change about the world of Batman? More focus on the classic rogues, smaller stories. Make it more fantastical in the movies. Which heroes need better villains? A lot of them, a lot of them. Aquaman, give him more villains, he doesn't have enough. Wonder Woman, she has plenty, but a lot of them are kind of give her better villains, or you know, just flesh out the ones she already has. Obviously, Green Lantern could also use some better villains. He's got like a half a dozen really good villains, but the rest are kind of just okay. There's a lot of Marvel ones, of course, who barely has any rogues gallery, like Ant-Man and so on. Next question from Dawson Leonard. Top 10 favorite comic book characters of all time? That needs to be a separate video, I think. Nate Justice asks, when is the Godzilla villain tier list? Never. Sadri Gamer asks, have you seen John Justice? If so, how do you rate it? No, I have not seen it. Ozymandias Absurd, what are your thoughts on Weather Wizard? That's also very specific. I think it's pretty good. Pretty good. In my top 10 Flash villains, definitely. Sir Comics, if you had to share a cellmate in Arkham Asylum, who would it be with? The friendliest character, probably. Who would that be? I don't know. Ooh, that's tough. They're all kinda... Maybe Riddler, because I feel like he's not gonna kill me or hurt me. He's just gonna annoy me. But the other ones, very high risk you're gonna end up dead. So yeah, let's... Or one of the really... Killer Moth, is he in Arkham at the time? I want to share a cell with him. He'd be fun to share a cell with, just tell stories together. Grimace, is mayonnaise an instrument? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, it's that guy. Has YouTube been a good or bad influence on your life? Probably good. Probably good, yeah. It's definitely been good. I feel like I'm doing something. I'm actually doing something productive and creative with all of my interests and, you know, my passions. And yeah. Definitely good. I'm just blue. Are you straight or not? I need answers. Well, you're not getting any answers. Lamp, why do you like Two-Face so much? Because he's awesome, duh. I like all breads. What's your favorite type of bread? Baked bread. Kiashan Govender, what's your favorite horror monster? I guess I would say Jason, if he counts as a monster. Jason Voorhees. Marvel DC Extinction Wrestlers asks, do you have any siblings? And if so, how many? I have one. A sister, an older sister. Julian Perez asks, are you going to make a video about why you hate Punchline? Kinda like your Hush, he's a stinky poo video. Maybe, who knows? Maybe in the future. RAD World asks, do you have your own ideas to make a villain? Sure, plenty of ideas. I've made several villains too in the Hillbrook series, and I made a villain in Comet Man. Next question, Pandiga Arkin Rauf. Sounds cool. That's not a question. Logan Thomas, what are you going to do about those seagulls? Murder them all, of course. Chris Hansen, favorite obscure villain? I think I already answered this. Clefairy 3 or White Rabbit. Marvel one, something like that. Kono Dedede, who are your favorite bands, artists? Well, I don't really have anymore, but I used to as a teen. I like Prince and Michael Jackson and Run DMC, you know, kinds of stuff from the 80s. Yuletide Horse asks, what did you do with the bodies? Buried them, of course. Geek85, what are your other favorite superheroes besides Batman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Cyclops, The Punisher? Yeah, that's about it. Those are the ones I really care about. The rest kinda take him or leave him. Otto, have you ever gone to a different country? Yes, but not many times. But I'm about to. Mitchell Anhalt has a lot of long questions. I don't know if you can make this. I'm fairly certain you already heard of and gotten a butt ton of requests for the Penny Plunderer, but do you by chance ever think you could make a video about him? In my opinion, I think he's worse than Kite Man. I mean, come on, pennies. I don't know, he's okay. I might do a video on him at some point. What would your preference be if someone made a serial killer with the gimmick of old fairy tales, more specifically Red Riding Hood? I don't know, my preference? I think this idea sounds pretty good. 3. Though I have been a big fan of Batman before, mainly thanks to Batman the Animated Series and the Nolan films, the Arkham games made my love for the Dark Knight and his rogues even stronger. So without thinking twice, which of the Arkham games is your personal favorite? The first one. Mine is Asylum. Oh really, mainly for its atmosphere and the fact that it feels slightly more like a Batman story compared to like City Knight and Origins. Will that and you play as Joker in challenge maps? Do you? I don't remember that. Do you think you will ever do a video about Joker's Girl Punchline? Again, I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Alexis. Maybe, potentially. So what do you think on the rumor that Firefly is going to be in the Batgirl film coming soon? I don't think that's a rumor, I think that's been confirmed. I mean, we've already gotten a casting. Brendan Fraser has been casted as Firefly, so I'm pretty sure that's confirmed and I think it's great. And it's kind of strange pick, but excited to see what they'll do with him, how he'll portray it. Yeah, sounds good. Isaiah Munoz, what's your favorite Friday the 13th movie? Well, that would either be part 6 or 7, probably part 6. David Miller asks, who is the greatest Batman artist? Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Some of my favorites are Kelly Jones, Norm Brayfogle, Marshall Rogers, Jim Aparo, Carmine Infantino, of course Neil Adams, Jim Lee is also great. Yeah, there's a lot of ones. I might make a video on that someday. And finally, the last question. Fittingly, Captain Pop Culture asks, can this be last comment? Yes, this is indeed last comment. And thank you all so much for asking all these questions. I got way more questions than I thought I would. So many that my camera died. I hope you're satisfied with my answers. I tried to answer them as well as I could and all confined in one video. Wasn't that easy? I mean, that was a lot of questions. Well over 100 questions. I did not expect that many questions. This video is probably over 2 hours long. I'm gonna have to edit it a lot probably. I should just be quiet now and just end the video. And of course, as always, remember Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.